I Fred, just like Juice Jane 3-6. Lying young screens, I been turned up with the demons. Ay, Trapper gave a son to believe in. I been on my grind, them hating niggas hate to see him.
Right now. I'm I'm Delinquent. Welcome to Delinkwents After Hours Spot. We're here with my good friend Scott Schiaffo. You might remember him from such movies as Clerks, Clerks 3, Vulgar, Jane Silent Bob Reboot. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great tonight, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So, I see you got your guitar, man.
Oh, man. The house is, my wife is a saint. There's guitars in every room.
Oh, that's awesome. She supports everything you do, eh?
Well, pretty much, yeah. We've known each other a very long time, and I'm blessed in that area, really. It's
Is she a Jersey girl?
She's a Jersey girl, that's right.
That's awesome.
Also a musician, a great songwriter, a wonderful singer, guitar player, and
Yeah.
we met just shortly after Clerks was released theatrically.
In '94.
Correct. Clerks comes out in 94. I meet Carrie in 95-ish, 96, and we get really tight by the end of the 90s, but we were just friends the first handful of years. We were mostly doing a music session. We were working on her record, and I was blessed because when you're in a relationship with somebody who's truly your soulmate and your best friend,
Yeah.
there's nothing better. I mean, here we are 30 years later. I mean, it's crazy, but yeah, so very weird. Clerks for me, because it happened, I was already in my late 20s when I auditioned for the movie, and the movie did not get released until I was 30. So I was not old, but I was older than the rest of them. But it kind of initially cut my life sort of, there's a halfway mark. There's my life before Clerks and then my life after Clerks. And it just turned 30 and I'm in my 60s. So it worked out really well. But, you know, we could, whatever you'd like to talk about is open game. I know we were talking earlier a little bit about how important sobriety is for somebody who has issues.
And you're going on 20 years, or you are 20 years, my friend.
It'll be, this is year 20. It won't be actually 20 on the nose until July 4th. But yeah, 20 years.
Good for you, man. That is so awesome. Yeah, like I was saying, the last time we spoke, I was, we had an interview and I was struggling like a lot, man. And you gave me some good words. I wish they would have helped, but unfortunately I had to go through my stuff and I eventually got sober, but
it's whatever it does take to get the ball rolling is worth it. Really, I mean, I had congestive heart failure and I almost died twice within 6 months, but that began my actual getting sober and staying sober because I was in and out, sober a few months, back out. And when I went out, it was horrible. It was benders. I was a blackout alcoholic, coke, crack, I guess on the East Coast, and I don't think crystal and meth was that big on the East Coast in those years. It was mostly coke, crack, heroin, and booze. But I'm blessed, as are you. Doesn't matter 20 years, 2 years, 2 days, today. And all that matters is we remember that because it's a blessing. If you've really cursed with addiction, a day clean is a blessing. It truly is.
Oh yeah, I was in rough shape a couple of years ago. Yeah. So I know exactly where you're coming from, man. And you know what? I'm so happy for you that you have 20 years, man. That's awesome. So awesome.
Thank you.
So the music, that's your thing nowadays, eh?
Yeah, well, music has always music has always been my real first love and passion. Excuse me. Film was a close second. I really didn't dive deeper into film until my 20s. My gosh. Went down the wrong pipe.
That's okay.
Long story short, music really, from the time I can remember, I mean, I was 5 years old and I was enraptured by music and started playing the guitar by 10, 11 years old.
Yeah.
But then in my 20s, I really got the acting bug when I went to college.
And how did you run into Kevin or even get a hold of the script and
Well, I auditioned. Darn. I auditioned. I saw an audition notice because they were said New Jersey's a pretty big state. I'm up north. They were down south. My gosh.
that's
So
okay?
I just saw an audition notice in a paper. This is going back before the internet, before cell phones, smartphones. You would look for auditions in casting papers. And Kevin put an audition notice in a Jersey paper. And I
Yeah,
saw it and I said, oh, I got to get to this audition. Because back then, 92, 93, no, there weren't a lot of people shooting movies in New Jersey.
yeah,
Now with technology, people shoot movies on their phone anywhere.
or yeah.
But back then, it was a very different animal. So,
Did you did you ever know? Did you know back then that it would become the cult classic that it is today?
oh gosh, no, not at all. I mean, it's the complete opposite. At that point, I had worked on a couple of other independent films in that time frame because film then it took quite a while to do your post production. Not like now on digital where you could shoot something and by the end of the day you have a cut. It was film and developing, and then they had to edit and add music, and so films took longer to actually become edited and finished. So in that time frame, I shot a few low budget films, and I was thinking, well, it'd be great if any of these just come out, even in a small way, and maybe be like an underground cult thing, or just play at college campuses because a lot of indie films would just get
Yeah,
screened at schools and specialty screenings. But no, when it went into Sundance, and just getting into Sundance was insane. We couldn't believe it.
incredible. Yeah,
But then winning was just beyond like my wildest dreams, in all honesty. But I would have never have guessed when I saw the rough cut that Kevin sent me. He sent us all VHS tapes of the original rough cut,
yeah,
and I loved what I saw. It was a fun, crazy, indie film.
yeah.
But I never dreamed a major film studio like Miramax would come along and
Scooped it up.
and distribute it. Yeah, it was just
Yeah,
unbelievable.
no. And you're still friends with a lot of the cast, eh?
Well, those first 10 years afterwards, we really weren't all that close. We were geographically in different places, and we were also um, pursuing other things, other films. We weren't all friends until more like the early 2000s, because then we all started doing the convention circuit together.
Yeah,
But back when it was shot, I mean, Kevin and Jay, they were actual friends. Ernie O'Donnell, who plays Rick Derris,
Rick
yeah, they were
Derris. Yeah,
friends. But Brian O'Halloran, Dante,
yeah,
Jeff Anderson also knew those guys before the movie. But there was a handful of us that were just actors who auditioned, who did not know Kevin before. And after the movie came out, we stayed friendly on the phone, but we weren't like buddy buddy at all. And then Kevin's career began to escalate.
yeah,
And it wasn't until the conventions became a bigger deal in the late 90s, early 2000s, we would all start getting booked and showing up at certain conventions. And then, we were always friendly. There really is a certain camaraderie and connection that you getting to be blessed with being in a film that has gotten the kind of attention that Clerks has gotten. The cast, you're going to bond over that because it's a blessing. Every actor kind of dreams of that. So, in that way, there's a bond. But we didn't really all become. I didn't become friends with Brian until after the 2000s, and then from 2010 to now, we really got pretty tight because we did a lot of shows together.
yeah. You guys are out doing conventions and stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, good for you, man. That's awesome. You were also in Brian's movie too, Vulgar.
Right. That was that was shot and directed, written and directed by Brian Johnson,
Yeah,
who was one of the comic book men, and Brian O'Halloran, who's Dante in Clerks, plays the
yeah,
lead in Vulgar. It's funny because even in that film, it wasn't. Of course, none of this was planned, but I got to play sort of like an arch enemy of his again in another movie.
yeah.
Like in Clerks, we go at it. We're not really like enemies, but I'm giving them trouble, and then in Vulgar, I'm another
Same,
troublemaker.
same kind
Yeah,
of thing.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. So that was kind of cool how it worked out. But Brian O'Halloran, the actor. Um, Not only is he a consummate professional, but he's just one of the most down to earth, most decent guys I know. And that's just truth. That's not me saying it because we're in the movie together. And he really, over the years of being on the road together and getting to know each other personally, he's a really solid dude. Really solid dude.
what was it like to revisit Clerks 3 after so many years? You were in that too, so
Well, it was such a night and day difference and a night and day experience that it was so different. For the number one thing, the original Clerks was shot on a real like shoestring budget. So
yeah,
you showed up, you rehearsed. Kevin shot. He didn't have the luxury of doing a lot of takes because film was very expensive then. Whereas now on digital, you could shoot to your heart's content and it's not costing you a ton of money.
yeah,
Back when they shot film, each take was a lot of money. So you couldn't, so we, not that we rushed necessarily, but it was really about getting it done and low budget, no budget. Just a
yeah,
few of us were there. The people that were in the scene and a few people helping out. Now, 25 years or whatever later, Kevin's a very successful filmmaker. The Clerks 3 set, there's trailers everywhere. There's more people. There were more people working on the film that weren't in the cast than were in the entire film the first time round, if you know what I mean. There were
yeah,
more people working than there. I'm not really saying this properly, but it was like the first thing was a little, say, party at a friend's house for 6 people, and the other thing was a giant ballroom blitz. Like
yeah,
that was it was so different, and the budget. There was craft services and hair and makeup. Like I was in hair and makeup longer for Clerks 3 than I probably took to shoot my original scene.
in the first one.
Right, right. I mean, it
Yeah,
was that it's night and day. Like you couldn't
yeah,
even imagine. But all in a good way, all in a very exciting, good way. But Brian O'Halloran had, like I said, we were pretty tight. He welcomed me into his trailer because I had a small trailer. It wasn't bad. I'm not saying, it just because it was smaller, but being a smaller character only needed for a couple of days, you're not going to get a big
yeah,
trailer. Brian needed a trailer because he was the lead, but he
yeah. He
invited
was
me into
there.
his trailer and we hung out, and it was wonderful. It was just so exciting, night and day, obviously from the first one. But most of my film experiences after Clerks are quite different than what Clerks was like because we were shooting on such a shoestring budget and we were all pretty green. We were all pretty much first timers at everything, most of us. I had
Yeah,
acted before, but that was only the second or third time I acted for a filmmaker.
yeah. It was him and Scott, eh? Most.
Yeah, Scott Mosier, they were the guys that were really the two key generals to get things done on that first one. And David Klein, who was the
Yeah,
actual DP. Without that, and a lot of times that's all that was. If there was one or two people in the scene, you would have Kevin, Dave Klein, Scott Mosier, and the two people in the scene, and probably very few other people. But like I
yeah,
say, on Clerks 3, it was like showing up to a carnival. Like they shut half the town down. There's trailers everywhere. It was. There were drones flying overhead uh, when word got out that we were shooting.
Yeah.
There were just, we had to stop filming because drones were flying over trying to catch some of the action from drone cameras.
Oh,
That's
no way.
and such a crazy difference from the first movie. Drones with cameras didn't even exist when we shot the first movie.
No, no. That's insane. So, music, man. Like, is there anything online that people can, like, your fans can check out?
Yeah, if you look for me either on Facebook or pretty much anywhere on the internet, if you Google Scott Schiaffo, a myriad, a ton of stuff will pop up. But the music, two music projects that really mean the most to me that I put most of my time in is my wife's record, Jewel Carey. It's
Okay.
called Little Did I Think, her album.
Yeah.
That album is almost like the story of how we met. So it's so personal to me, but I love the music. She's really a very gifted songwriter. And Francis Fell, that's my other thing that I've been working with those guys since before Clerks. And we recorded tons of music over the years, but only recently did we get back together and start releasing it now that we're in a streaming digital world. So Francis
Perfect.
Fell, Jewel Carey, and if you just look me up, you'll find all of those things very easily.
Perfect, man. Um, is there anything crazy like that fans ever reach out to you about, or have you ran into anybody like fans and they bring up Clerks, or because you're a very iconic character?
Well, what's funny is, it's more so now, many years later, with the conventions, because obviously people go to the conventions knowing that there's certain cast members they're going to see. As far as quick funny story, I had the beard, and this has to do with alcohol and drug addiction too. The Chuli's Gum guy has a full beard because before we shot that scene, a week or so before, I was off on a really bad bender. And whenever I would go on a bender, I didn't shave. I'd end up with a beard. But when I auditioned for Kevin, and the way I went out on auditions back then was clean shaven. I was clean cut guy. I kind of looked like one of the Rat Pack. But I ended up with this beard, and I showed up and I said, should I keep the beard? And he's like, yeah, keep the beard. It works for the character. I like it. But so that said, I shaved it right after we shot and went back to clean. So I didn't really look as much, but I was in New York City a couple of weeks after the film came out. And I was in what's called, back then there was the Playwrights Workshop and the Dramatist Bookstore, where actors would go to get plays and books on acting. And it was like a mecca for actors to get books back when there were bookstores. But the staff there were huge film fans. And when I came in, they didn't know offhand at first, but I asked a question and they recognized the voice because NYU film students went to see Clerks at the Angelica Film Center like every weekend for like 6 months because it became such a big cult thing for indie filmmakers. So they recognized the voice quickly because they had heard the Chuli's guy rant so many times that when I came in and I started talking to them, they go, wait. Then they put the face together and they said, you're the Chuli's. It shocked me because at that point, nobody really would recognize me out in the street. Even to this day, that almost never happens. What's funny is when you get to talking and people are like, oh, you're an actor, anything I might know, 90% of people, they know of the movie Clerks, even if they didn't see the movie Clerks. So that always brings up like, oh yeah, okay. But I never had any kind of crazy fan interaction. The fans have all been really great, and that's true.
That's awesome.
The people that like Kevin's movies are really down to earth. I've never met anybody who's been disrespectful or a wise guy or, I know Marilyn Gigliotti, who played Veronica.
Yeah.
Occasionally she gets somebody making jokes about the 37. And
Yeah.
and they're not trying to be disrespectful. It's just from the movie.
Yeah.
But for a female, that's a little uncomfortable
Oh,
sometimes.
for sure it is. And it's
You
got a
know, but yeah,
little bit
you know,
disrespectful.
and they all make jokes. Oh, I'm going to be 38. I'll be number 38, please, or
Yeah.
whatever. But for me, no. I've also been very surprised over the years at how many people genuinely are like, because the Chulies gum guy, if you really if you're honest about it, the Chulies gum guy is not really a likable character. He's kind of an asshole.
He's
But
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, he's a troublemaker and he's a loudmouth. But
Yeah.
the fact that the fans, they still seem to enjoy him, and they're not put off by it. And
Yeah.
even the character I played in Vulgar,
The
that was
husband, yeah.
yeah, that he was bad news. I mean, he was a wife beater, and he was, he wasn't a very nice guy. I did do a convention one time where there was a couple that came up to the booth, and they were really hardcore. A lot of ink, a lot of piercings, and they're like, "Whoa, man, Travis Lee, that's our favorite character." And I'm like,
Really?
"Come on, that's your favorite character?" Because I thought they're just being nice. Like, "No, you got to take a picture with my wife in your lap." And it was fun, but I
Yeah.
thought, well, you got to be pretty hardcore if that character is really your favorite character, because let's face it, he's a wife beating, violent guy.
He was, yeah.
But they were sweet about it. They weren't like menacing, but so that's probably the oddest fan interaction I might have ever had.
Are you gonna go on any conventions here soon?
Well, I've got one this summer, uh, and terrible. Now I'm forgetting. I will be posting about it on my social media. I'm doing it with Brian O'Halloran. It's upstate New York, not far from the border, not far from the Canada border. Um, Plattsburgh, New York, I think it is. But
Okay.
after after COVID, for me, the convention gigs started to cool off a little bit, and I think a lot of it did have to do with COVID. It did have to do with the fact that after COVID, a lot of my peers from Kevin's other movies went on the road. People that were pretty big names like Jason Lee and Ethan Suplee,
Yeah.
um, Rosario. I mean, Rosario Dawson. She
Oh,
goes on the
Rosario
road.
Dawson, yeah.
Yeah, so when they go on the road, there's only so much room that the promoters have in their budget, because there's a financial reality
Yeah.
to these conventions. People think that people who don't know how they work think that you just get invited or whatever and everything's paid for or whatever. It doesn't work that way. It's a business like any other business. So when there's a lot of headlining people, there's not a lot of budget left for the smaller characters like there was 10, 15, 20 years ago,
Yeah.
before some of the bigger name folks started going out and doing the shows. And, I have no bitterness towards that at all. I was out on the road for at least 10, 15 years, 3, 4 times a year. I would have a gig, a convention gig. And now that I'm older and I'm doing
Yeah.
the music, I don't mind, I'm not the biggest fan of the traveling, especially long car rides or even long flights. Like, we went to London, and I always wanted to go to London, and I'll never say that that was a bad thing. But at this point in time, at 62 years old, uh, I do the gigs if they come up. I rarely would say no, but I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of. And now in our country, it's not a great time to be flying around or be on the road. There's a lot of unrest in the United States, sadly, because of the regime, which I don't want to. I'll never make. I'll never come on as an actor or musician start talking about politics. But the USA is in a very strange place right now.
Yeah. So hold on. So I'm Delinquent. We're on Delinquents After Hours Spot. We're sitting here with Scott Schiaffo. Scott, how you doing, man?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for doing this, hey?
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. your fans, they appreciate it. Kevin's fans appreciate it. So it's a, it's a very big opportunity for me to speak with you again, because I wasn't doing very good the last time we spoke.
Well, I'm very happy to hear you are doing better, and don't be too hard on yourself because you, relapse does not have to be a part of it, but most alcoholics and addicts will stumble a few times before they lock in to any sort of longer term clean and sober time. It's a brutally evil malady. I don't call it a disease because of what I've learned, and I actually went to school for mental health counseling, and I did some studying within the addiction world. And a disease, by definition, it does meet it, but yet at the same time, it's the only disease where you have to do something first before. Like, if you don't pick up a drink or a drug, you're golden. But as soon as you pick up a drink or a drug, one or two, the Chinese have a proverb. It's something like, first the man takes a drink, then the drink takes a drink.
The man, yeah.
Right. So when you're an addict or an alcoholic, after that first or second time that hit, if you're feeling no pain, there's a very good chance you're going back to just overdoing it and being fully addicted again. So relapse is terrible, but it's very real within the world of recovery. So don't feel bad. I'm very happy you're doing well today, and look at it. Whatever time we have, this is my 20th year, but I don't ever think like, well, hey, 20 years now, I'm good. I could probably have a drink tonight. Never. I feel blessed because, and I hope this happens for you too. And I don't know if it has or if you've thought about this, but don't put too much focus on it if you hadn't, because it is a tough thing. But they talk about the obsession being removed, and I never dreamed I would be free of the obsession for alcohol, because alcohol, and I was an addict and an alcoholic, but alcohol was my real downfall. And alcohol was the thing that really destroyed me time and time again. I addicted to drugs as well, but it was a different type of thing with alcohol. After a couple drinks, boom, 4 or 5 day bender. But my point is, whether you have a long period of sobriety or a short period of sobriety, getting that obsession, the obsession going away, that really is a gift. I would get sober years and years ago for a month, a couple of weeks, a few months. Maybe one time I got a year back when I was a younger man. But I was really miserable without alcohol. I really hated the people that could drink in a safe manner, whatever that means. And I couldn't drink. I would walk my dog. This is when I was like in my mid-20s, late 20s, trying to stay sober. I would be walking my dog and I'd see the liquor store and I would stop. And for 20 minutes, I'd watch the people going in and out of the liquor store. And I was getting furious, like angry, like, oh, those people, they could just go in the liquor store, buy a bottle. They could drink. I can't drink. Like, I hated my life without alcohol. It was a terrible feeling and a terrible way to be. So I always ended up drinking again. But the fact that I don't know how it happened, it's the time. But after 20 years, alcohol has no more real grasp on me. Like, I don't play with it. I'd never take a drink because I know I don't want to open up that black hole. I don't. And now at my age and after 20 years, it just doesn't. I could be at a party or in bars and there's alcohol everywhere. And I can't believe I've been blessed with being given that kind of freedom. Sometimes it almost feels like it's become too easy. But I watch my P's and Q's with substances because I'm an older person now. And I am on some prescription medications that you have to really respect because they can be very easily abused. And, when I was a younger man, if I took a sedative of any type, probably a day or two later, I'd be drinking right along with that sedative, or even a pain pill. If I got a nice pain pill, oh, I got to have a drink with this pain pill.
Yeah.
Thankfully, that doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened in 20 years. But I don't know
Uh,
where you're at with that. And I'm
right
speaking
now,
wrong.
like I'm in a really good place with it. Like after we spoke years ago when I was doing the radio station for Jesstv, I got locked up. I ended up getting 6 years. So I served about 4 years. And then the last 2 years I was in, I just said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore, man. Like my family, I'm missing out on everything in life.
Right.
So I got sober. I did every program the penitentiary had, and went to church, did everything I could. And then when I got out on parole, I asked to go to a treatment center, which I'm at, and I'll be here for another month, and then I'm on my full parole, out on my own, and doing good. So
That is terrific. That is terrific. I'm very happy to hear that. And don't ever feel like you're not where you're supposed to be, or be too harsh on yourself. Only with that first drink or drug. If you want to be harsh with yourself, be harsh then. Like if you get a feeling like you think you might want to use, be
yeah,
harsh with yourself. But other than that, you got to be kind to yourself, because we've been through hell and back, and being sober, and it really is true when you hear all these things in the different meetings and whatnot. And I don't go to meetings. I used to go many, many years ago, and I never was one who liked it much. But a lot of the things that I heard, and now at 62 years old, I'm finally 20 years sober. All of those things are very true. Things like my worst day sober, and there have been a lot of bad, bad, bad days,
yeah,
still is nothing like even what a good day might have been drunk. Because, man, once I started drinking, I was the walking dead. I literally would drink until I was hospitalized. And it was no kind of life. And anybody who knew me, they most people wash their hands at a certain point. And unlike, you know, I know the penitentiary and having to go away. A lot of people have a very negative thought or feeling about that, or judgmental, but that really was a gift. If you've come out and now you are doing the sober thing to the best of your ability every day, you've got a brand new life. You don't know
yeah,
what could be ahead of you, and you're still a very young person, you know?
yeah, exactly. And I don't look at the like when I got arrested, I don't see that as a curse. I see it
No.
as a blessing. Like I have to go to the police station weekly and sign in, and my arresting officer, the guy who busted me when I was looked like The Walking Dead, came out behind the counter and gave me a hug, and that felt
Oh,
good. Yeah, that felt so
wow.
good. Yeah,
Was it, not that any of it matters, and I don't want to go into what they call like war story details, but they got you for some kind of possession or dealing or some kind of,
so like after I was doing the radio station there, I got really bad, and I started breaking into things like uh, electronic stores, whatever I could break into. I
sure.
broke, so I broke into lots, and I wouldn't break in like a normal person. I would go through the side of the building, break a hole, and so every electronic store that I broke into, they go, well, we think this is Danny because there's a hole in the side of the building, and
Oh
so
boy.
so they came back and they hit me with a bunch of them, and yeah, I got into a high speed chase, and they let me
I
go.
got into a high speed chase once. It
Gee,
was bad, bad. One of the worst things that, but because it happened when I was younger and I had a pretty good record before that, they dropped a lot of the charges and they let me go to rehab. So it wasn't a real wake up call, but it's just funny. Not funny. We could try to laugh about these things in the right way down the line, but to find out that we both had a high speed chase, and it was the police chasing you, correct?
the police and the RCMP. I'm in Canada, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, listen, and it's one thing that the police do not like is what they call a runner.
No.
So that's one of the biggest crimes in any country because
Yeah.
they feel that you'll become a danger to other people,
And that's what it
and
is.
you won't even acquiesce to the law. So they do treat. I could not get into Canada 10 years ago because all of my legal papers were not completely filed properly. And I was already sober 10, 15 years at that point, or
Yeah.
10 years, maybe a little longer. But because some of my paperwork was not properly filled out and they saw eluding, see, because they think once a runner, always a runner.
Yeah.
So they come down hard on us. But oh, I'm so glad you're okay. And hopefully nobody got hurt with your chase.
No, no one got hurt. I I hit a deer, and that's what stopped the chase. I ended up hitting a deer, and then they finally caught up with. I didn't even know what I hit because I was so out of it.
Sure.
I thought I might have hit a human being. I was.
Oh God, thank God you didn't.
Yeah. So
I always remember thinking, can you imagine the people? And it's going to happen tonight, but it's not going to happen to you or I.
yeah,
But tonight, somebody's going to come to in a cell, and they're going to be told, "Well, you killed such and such with your car."
exactly.
And oh my gosh,
And they wouldn't even know. Remember, right? So
right?
it's a very surreal and scary life. I'm glad that I got out of it.
Yeah, stay out of it by any means
Oh,
necessary.
100%. I got too many good things going on right now. So, did you find it when like you got sober, being an actor and a musician? Did you find it hard to sobriety?
Oh well, at the time that it did happen, I was much older. So, I'm 62,
Yeah,
so I got sober at 42, finally sober. So my 20s and 30s, I I would go to rehab. I must have been in about 7 or 8 in like back then 30-day programs were popular. I must have been in like 7 or 8 of those over a 10-year period, and then outpatient was in a bunch of those. Um, I went to what they call a TC. I don't even know if these type of places exist anymore, but it was a therapeutic community. It was a long term, and the folks in there were mostly people who had that as an option or jail. They weren't really people who were looking for rehab. This was mostly a place that they sent repeat offenders with alcohol and drug problems go here for 18 months or go to jail for 3 to 5 years. I was the only person in there who went in there voluntarily for alcohol and drugs. So at the end of the road, that's how desperate and how scared I was to try to change. And I was already getting into my 30s. But no, I wasn't. I was 42. So was it hard? Oh God, it was miserable. When I was a younger person, I thought life without alcohol and drugs was just unbearable. I hate the fact that I can't drink at a holiday or a gathering or just go to a bar and have a beer. I felt so miserable without it that I would always go back to it. And it was a terrible cycle. And it's heartbreaking. I know a lot of people are going to be in that cycle, and it's a hard thing to break. You had something really hardcore break that cycle for you.
yes,
Okay. That's a blessing. We were just talking earlier, like your situation. Some people think, oh, it's awful. You had to go to the penitentiary, but it helped you save your life.
it did.
My heart failure and my wife, she's a big part of my life. She was a big part of my life then, more as a friend. But between her and my heart couldn't take anymore. Those things are what finally, and the first few years I was sober, I was like a full-time heart patient. I'd be in the heart wing for a week, come home a few weeks, back in the hospital, home, back in the hospital. So it was dire. There was no place for screwing around with booze or drugs. And finally, it was like after the third year of all these heart troubles, I remember saying to her and to myself in a sense, wow, I had not only have I not had a drink, but I don't think about it. I don't care about booze anymore. It was like, I swear, it was like the heavens opened up because
That's awesome.
before that, I could not stop drinking and be okay with the world of alcohol. Because let's face it, the globe primarily
Yeah.
is it's a wet world. People enjoy drinking, and a lot of people abuse it. Drinking especially because drinking is very socially acceptable and it's very legal. The drug world is a separate thing in a lot of ways, but alcohol is everywhere all the time. And
Yeah.
I never thought I'd be free of that. And I am. And I'm blessed beyond my wildest dreams for that alone. So, and you are. You got a head start now.
Yes. Your wife is very supportive too of your sobriety, eh?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, she and her father, who would be my future father-in-law, but we lost him sadly. I'm older now, so he
Yeah.
was he passed around 10 years ago.
That's
But a handful of years ago, when I was struggling, he had said to her, don't give up on him. I think he's a good seed. He's a good guy. Don't give up on him. And I never forgot that ever. I would now my heart and my loyalty to my wife, who's my best friend, who I love more than anything. I had a relationship grow in a way that I never would have had I tried to manipulate some kind of relationship in my past life, because all I ever cared about, not only did I not think I'd ever have a relationship or a family, because I didn't want a family. I was raised by single parents. I didn't even want any of that. I just wanted to be into music, into films, and party. I mean, it's very childish when I think of it now, but I mean, that was it. I didn't care about anything else for years. So I got blessed with this woman's presence in my life. That's really the truth. And it took years for it to grow into what it is, but there's a blessing to being in a relationship long term with somebody who's really your best friend. Again, I got blessed somehow, but
how long have you guys been together now?
well, as far as knowing one another, we know each other for close to 30 years.
Yeah.
As far as me being knowing I was completely in love with her and this was my wife,
Yeah.
that's about 10, 12 years.
Okay.
So, she's been in my corner that whole time. And it's no small miracle. It's really a wonderful, wonderful blessing. I never take her or the fact that I no longer care about drinking for granted. I had, like I said, even on a super bad day, I realize, man, I'm only a couple of drinks away from. I was begging on the streets of New York City back in the late '90s for change to get another drink so I could stop shaking. That's
Not
you
bad,
know,
eh?
oh my God, I don't think I'd be alive, and that's really the truth. I don't think my body would have would have withstood more. I was until they say till the wheels fall off or whatever, but I drank until I was blacked out, and then it was just come to, pass out, come to. There's no drinking party or fun. It was a dark, dark thing.
Well, you know what, my friend, I'm glad you got out of that life,
And you too, man.
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. So what do you got planned for the future, man?
Well, Francis Fell continues to put records out.
Yeah.
We haven't been playing. We haven't done live gigs in quite a while because my songwriting partner and I, Jack Fellers, we no longer live in the same state. When we were kids, we were in the bars. Of course, I was also not sober, but we were constantly playing live shows. But when he was in the same state that I was in,
Yeah.
he moved away. I got into the acting. I finally got sober. We reconnected. We never stopped really being friends. But my point is, we're not able to do the live gigs as easily as we did once upon a time. I'm hoping in the future that will change and that we will get out and play live. But we will continue to put our music out and write together, which now technology has allowed that to be much easier than it was when he and I were young men. So it'll be music with Francis Fell. I plan on growing as old as possible with my beautiful wife.
Good.
And, I just worked on a film a few weeks ago. They came to this house to shoot because my wife and I take care of her mother, who's 98 years old, and she's a pistol, but she needs a lot of help.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
my ability to go and do a lot of things, I'm more of a homebody now. So they came to me and they turned the garage into a little film set for the evening so that I could do a cameo in their film.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful and a blessing. I do enjoy acting, but for now, I'm primarily working on being the best family member I could be and a musician. And when an acting or a convention gig comes up, if I'm able to work it out that I could do the gig, I do it. I feel blessed because I had 30 years of doing a lot of it. Like I said, I'm not a young man anymore. I'm in my 60s. So it's okay to slow up a little bit, but I play music every day.
Yeah. All right, Scott. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up here. I'm Delinquent. This was Delinkwents After Hours Spot with Scott Schiaffo. Scott, is there anything you want to kind of say to your fans out there?
Well, thank you. If you're watching this or listening to this, thank you. If you are suffering or you know somebody who is suffering with alcohol, drugs, or depression, find it in your heart to be as supportive as possible. It's not always easy. I know that family members have a very hard time with this problem. It really hurts a lot of people. Alcoholics and drug addicts, we don't really have relationships or family. We take hostages, and we don't do it purposely, but it happens because of how sick the sickness becomes. So fans of the films and the music, thank you. People, when anybody's suffering, do your best. And if you're out there struggling, stay sober just for today. Thank you so much for having me on and being so candid about your situation. That's how you beat this thing, by being honest about it, not hiding it.
No, exactly. And you know what? Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're very welcome.
All right, Scott, you take care, my friend.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye, buddy.
Shout say she falling for a trapper, hey. Try to rob and on my dog gon' get a clapper, hey. We the ones that really make it happen. With my pistol by my belt up, they ass it better than fashion, hey. Yeah, you really get money for the capture. See the button on the gram and he even cap on his capture, hey. You ain't talking money, then you yapping when you lose it all, my nigga. Not just remember who had a aim. I been rapping nigga like a bandit, hey.
Just come.